Kind of waiting on Barbara. She's not here yet. Welcome everyone to the Owensboro Board of Commissioners regular meeting, September the 3rd, 2019. At this time, I will ask City Clerk Beth Cecil to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jeff Sanford.
Here.
Commissioner Larry Conder.
Here.
Mayor Tom Watson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larry Magliner.
Here.
Commissioner Pam Smithwright. Here.
Thank you. Would please stand for the invocation and the pledge by Commissioner Larry Conder.
Thank you, Mayor. If everyone would please pray with me. Almighty God, creator of the world, we give you thanks for the gift of stewardship and work. Deliver us in our various occupations from the service of self alone, that we may do our work in truth and beauty and for the common. God of justice, we pray for all workers as we have celebrated Labor Day, that they would receive fair treatment for their labors. For those who seek work, provide jobs. For those who cannot work, provide sustenance. Make those who lead the industries and commerce of our country responsive to your perfect will. Build up our leaders of our country and our city, a respect for all laborers, regardless of where their positions be. Keep us from all evils of greed and sloth and gluttony, that we may lead lives of holiness to serve you and our neighbor. We ask this in Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
And now the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the presentation agenda is a National Recovery Month proclamation. Is that why you're here? Okay, here we go. Whereas recovery from mental health and substance use disorders, including co-occurring disorders, is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness. And whereas treatment and recovery services for mental and substance use disorders and co-occurring disorders is effective, and people can and do recover in our area and around the nation. And whereas addressing and overcoming mental and substance abuse use disorders and co-occurring disorders is essential to achieving healthy lifestyles, both physically and emotionally. And whereas we must encourage relatives and friends of people with mental and substance use disorders and co-occurring disorders to implement preventive measures, recognize the signs of a problem, and encourage those in need of help to seek appropriate treatment and recover support services. And whereas to help more people with lived experience achieve and sustain recovery, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and Owensboro Regional Recovery invite all residents of Owensboro to participate in National Recovery Month. Now therefore, I, Thomas Hart Watson, Mayor of the City of Owensboro, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2019 as National Recovery Month. In the City of Owensboro, and I urge all citizens to observe this month with appropriate programs, activities, and ceremonies supporting National Recovery Month to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Recovery Month observers, signed and sealed this 3rd day of September 2019. Okay, I'm going to present that. We're going to have a celebration right out here, okay?
All right.
Good luck with that. All right, let's see ourselves over there. We'll shake hands.
My name is Arturo Flores, and I'm originally from California, and I came out in Kentucky in 2008, and I didn't know I needed that I needed help because my lifestyle became so, it was the norm. So I eventually landed in your lovely courtrooms here in downtown, and I was blessed to go to Owensboro Regional Recovery, and that was March 25th, 2010. So I'm coming up on 10 years of being involved in recovery without having a drink or a drug. So I have learned that I'm real grateful to give back. I work at Owensboro Regional Recovery now, and I just graduated with a master's degree in social work in May. So thank you. So I'll be seeking to do therapy, things like that, give back. So I've learned in my process that there's a lot of people that have their hands involved in giving back to the community, and so I'm grateful to be here today. And so I'm part of Davis Treatment Providers, which is a nonprofit organization that involves whoever wants to be involved, and we try to give back to the community by an event that we're having on Friday, September the 6th, will be Recovery Walk here at Legion Park, where we try to bring recovery awareness to the community. And like you said, Mayor, we'll have open house at Owensboro Regional Recovery September the 7th, family involvement, so people are aware what we do in the community and how we give back. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Owensboro is a better place since you landed in it. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is community priorities. Ms. Candace Brake, Gold Chamber President, CEO. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor. My name is Candace Brake, 200 East 3rd Street, Owensboro, Kentucky, 42303. Your next door neighbor. And may I please approach before I start the presentation?
You're going to ask for money? Yes, sir. I figured.
So, Mayor and Commissioners and City Manager Pagan, staff, we're here tonight. Elizabeth Griffith is here with the EDC. She's their Manager of Business Retention and Expansion and Workforce Development. And the Chamber and EDC, every year, every 2 years, when there's a long session for the General Assembly, we embark upon a community priorities process so that our community we're on the same page. Years ago, we were told by people in Frankfurt that, you know, it's just so hard to help you guys out because we never know what you really need and what you really want. So a group of leaders came together and from the Chamber and EDC and City and County and said, okay, let's begin delving into the issues and identifying key issues that we all endorse and agree upon being critical to our community. So what we did this year, we took the past, you'll see these cards here. These are our cards from the 2016 and 2018 sessions. And this year we'll have cards too. We have the check marks just to show how much progress we've made over the past 2 sessions. That's thanks in large part to our delegation, but also to our local leaders who spent a lot of time in Frankfurt, including our business leaders and our elected leaders like Mayor Watson and Judge Mattingly. They spend an inordinate amount of time up there helping us out. So over the past 2 sessions, we've been very successful, but we have several things that we haven't checked off yet. So if you'll go on to your 2020 community priorities sheet that I gave you, and these are priorities that were come up after we've looked at what we haven't done, meeting with transportation groups, and also talking to chambers throughout West Kentucky, the West Kentucky region, and our ED partners across West Kentucky. And then we had a public forum where around 80 people, between 65 and 80, I always go on the other, people attended, and I had some really good input and a lot of good dialogue that day. So what our board has ratified and what we present to you today, and we will be going to fiscal court on Thursday night for our transportation priorities, to start construction to widen Highway 54 to Jack Hinton Road, to complete 169 and upgrade Audubon Parkway to a 169 spur, to get the I-69 bridge, to extend 165 to US 60 at the Natcher Bridge. For our capital priority, we have the new judicial center, and for a legislative priority, we want to continue the home rule so we can have a flexibility in our local government tax structure. And I'm sure if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But I know you guys are all familiar with a lot of these or all these projects, but we would be happy. Elizabeth's here with me. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. There's really there aren't any new projects that are on the cards besides extending 165 to US 60 and putting the bridge, the I-69 bridge, on the card. It's something we've been working on for a long time.
Okay. Comments? Questions? Okay.
Okay, so our next step will be at fiscal court Thursday night, and then we'll work on the cards and get those printed and be ready for our red, white, and blue, and we'll have both of our gubernatorial candidates here in Owensboro, so they'll know.
We don't have to go over there, do we?
so they'll know where we are. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is 5A, consider approval of minutes dated August 13th, 2019, and August 20th, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 5B is I'd like for you to consider these board appointments, please. Northwest Neighborhood Alliance, appoint Denny Hinton to fill the remainder of an unexpired term, which ends April the 16th, 2021, and appoint Candace Brake to a 3-year term expiring October the 31st, 2022, to the Owensboro Health Board of Directors. So could someone make a motion, please?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Brake will be replacing Deborah Nunley. Been on there for 3 terms, I think. So we're happy that she agreed to do this. It's a lot of work. Okay. More discussion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, ordinances. This will be a second reading and it will be a roll call. So, Counselor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Ordinance 26-2019, an ordinance annexing to the city of Owensboro certain unincorporated territory in the county of Davis, adjoining the present boundary line of the city, being property currently owned by Kulwant Singh and located at 3310 West 2nd Street, containing .470 acres more or less, publicly read for approval on second reading this 3rd day of September 2019.
I make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
City manager comments.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This ordinance involves the annexation of 3310 West 2nd Street. The owner of the property has signed a consent to annex form. It has access from 2 city-maintained streets, so there is no new infrastructure the city will assume related to this annexation.
Commissioner Sanford,
Yes.
Commissioner Conder,
Yes.
Mayor Watson, Mayor Pro Tem Magliner,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith Wright.
Aye.
All right. Item 7 on the agenda. These are the first reading of ordinances. There'll be no vote. 7A, Counselor.
Ordinance 27-2019, an ordinance amending and updating sections of Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 3 of the Owensboro Municipal Code, and further repealing Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 3, Section 2-161. Introduced and publicly read on first reading this 3rd day of September 2019.
Thank you. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance makes changes to our procurement policies. Deputy Director of Finance and Support Services, Danae Galloway, supervises the procurement office, and she will brief the commission on our proposed changes.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Name's Danae Galloway. I'm the Deputy Director of Finance and Support Services, and I guess I feel like my address is 101 East 4th Street.
You're always there when I leave, I can tell you that.
The The procurement changes that we have, the city adopted KRS 45A, which is Kentucky's model procurement code. And the model procurement code for us outlines the acceptable methods for local governments to procure goods and services. One of the methods outlined, there's multiple ways you can procure, but one of the biggest used one is price quotes. And the city's policy is a 3-tier approach. So if you purchase an item or a good or a service and it's $0 currently up to $1,000, that's department head discretion. So basically if it's approved in their budget, they have the dollars for it, then there's no purchase order required and the department head can buy something. If it's $1,000 up to $20,000, which is part of the change, and I'll go into that, but the $20,000 point, it's 3 vendor quotes and a purchase order is required by the city. If it's $20,000 or above, it's a bid process, and they have to do a purchase order for that. Recently, the state of Kentucky passed House Bill 26, which contains some changes to Model Procurement Code. The minor change was that the bid security amount and bonding requirements for construction projects at $25,000. They have increased that to $100,000. So now if a construction project estimate is under $100,000, we don't necessarily have to require bid security or bonding from a contractor for that. The other change, which was important to us, was the $20,000 Tier 3 limit was raised to $30,000. So now if you go out and you have a project estimate and it's $25,000, we do not have to bid that. We just need to get 3 prices for it. This change, along with the increase in projects, city facilities, services offered, and the reduced number of staff over the years, made us really evaluate our internal policy and what we do for small purchase. So we started talking about the bottom Tier 1, $1,000, and whether we felt like that it would be prudent to change that. So city staff is proposing that that Tier 1, which currently is $0 to $1,000, be raised from up to $5,000, from $1,000 up to $5,000. So it go, any purchase between $0 and $5,000 would be department head discretion. When you factor in the cost of goods and services and how much that's increased over the years, the number of facilities that the city takes care of and operates, the types of services provided, you start to realize pretty quick that $1,000 is a pretty small threshold to get anything done. It's become increasingly difficult to keep things moving smoothly and efficiently with a $1,000 threshold. This increase will get the bottom tier purchasing power back in line with the cost of goods and services today. It will allow us less time spending pushing around purchase orders and paperwork. It will allow finance staff to better support the departments, and therefore the departments will have better support in achieving their goals and serving the citizens. So that's our proposal for the increase. Basically, like I said, it's the bid security going from $25,000 to $100,000, us increasing our bottom tier from $1,000 to $5,000, and then the state increasing the bid amount from $20,000 to $30,000. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions? Is that just because everything costs so much more now,
Yes.
basically?
Yes, and I mean, $1,000, it's really hard when you're talking like, you know, if you're talking about even your home air conditioning unit, you know it doesn't take very long for somebody to come out and you start running up a bill. But when you're talking about, you know, an air conditioning unit like on the size of this building or a lot of the city facilities, it starts to get kind of costly. And it just really, it kind of ties our hands and ties up a lot of time having to do the amount of work that we do to buy something that costs $1,000.
So you're still going to keep an eye on it, right?
Yes, we will still keep an eye on it.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Item 7B, Counselor.
Ordinance 28-2019, ordinance levying ad valorem taxes for municipal purposes for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020 at the rate of 26.60 cents per $100 of assessed valuation of real property, 26.74 cents per $100 of assessed valuation of personal property, and 30.30 cents per $100 of assessed valuation of vehicles, and providing for the collection and apportionment of the same. Introduced and publicly read on first reading this 3rd day of September 2019.
Thank you, Counselor. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
This is the first reading of an ordinance setting 3 different property tax rates for the year. The largest by revenue and the most well-known in the community is the tax on real property or real estate. We propose no change to the real estate rate from last year, remaining at 26.6 cents per $100 evaluation. With this rate, a property assessed at $100,000 would pay $266 in property tax to the city. As for the other categories, we propose no change to the vehicle rate, remaining at 30.3 cents per $100. And on the personal property rate, we propose a rate of 26.74, a decrease from a rate of 28.09 cents per $100. So in summary, we propose no change to the real estate and vehicle tax rates and a decrease in the personal property rate.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Item 7C, Counselor.
Ordinance 29-2019, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, and amending Ordinance 9-2019 to revise all beginning fund balances, carry over all outstanding encumbrances, capital projects, and rebudget funds. Introduced and publicly read on first reading this third day of September 2019.
Thank you, sir. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. This is first reading of our typical end-of-year carryover budget amendment. The amendment accounts for projects in progress that are not finished by the end of the previous fiscal year on June 30th. It also provides updated fund balances for the various funds based on actual performance for last year instead of the estimates used when we approved the budget earlier this year. While the amendment is several pages long and involves dozens of line items, there's one item in particular I'd like to draw to your attention. If you recall, in the current budget, we included $500,000 in a pension reserve account for future pension costs. At the time when we presented the budget in the spring, we discussed that we would like to add another contribution now at the carryover budget amendment. Accordingly, we propose a one-time $2 million contribution to the pension reserve account based on the performance last year in the general fund, as Angela Hamrick will present later in our meeting. Other than that item, the amendment is fairly typical of our carryover budget amendment. Staff is happy to answer any specific questions you might have.
Okay, any questions from the dais?
Just a comment if I could, please, Mayor.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
This is a really comprehensive sheet of paper that has a lot of different changes on it. Will any of these changes be available to the public, similar to what the new budget that we have on the website, that people can see what these amendments will do to what's made available or not? Or is that going to be made in?
City Manager?
I assume this will be in the amended budget on the website. Angela, is that correct?
Yes, and we'll publish it in the Messenger as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Okay. Item, you have something, Jeff? 7C. Counselor.
7D.
Okay, 7D. I was trying to avoid this long thing you got there.
Ordinance 30-2019, an ordinance of the City of Owensboro, Kentucky, also authorizing the issuance of A, general obligation bonds, Series 2019A, in an aggregate principal amount of approximately $4,680,000, subject to a permitted adjustment increasing or decreasing the principal amount of bonds by up to $465,000, for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the outstanding City of Owensboro, Kentucky General Obligation Bond Anticipation Notes, Series 2016, the proceeds of which were used to finance various public projects throughout the city. B, taxable general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019B, in an aggregate principal amount of approximately $3,750,000, subject to a permitted adjustment increasing or decreasing the principal amount of bonds by up to $375,000, for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the outstanding City of Owensboro, Kentucky taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2010, the proceeds of which were used to finance the cost of the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of an economic development project within the city. C, taxable general obligation public project refunding bonds, Series 2019C, in an aggregate principal amount of approximately $18,320,000, subject to a permitted adjustment increasing or decreasing the principal amount of bonds by up to $1,830,000 for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the outstanding City of Owensboro, Kentucky General Obligation Public Project Bonds, Series 2011, the proceeds of which were used to finance amenities at Smothers Park, utility relocation cost, and street beautification cost around the event center located in the city. D, taxable general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2019D, in an aggregate principal amount of approximately $2,145,000, subject to a permitted adjustment increasing or decreasing the principal amount of bonds by up to $215,000 for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the outstanding City of Owensboro, Kentucky taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2011, the proceeds of which were used to finance the cost of the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of the second phase of an economic development project within the city. And E, taxable general obligation refunding and improvement bonds, Series 2019E, in an aggregate principal amount of approximately $36,690,000, subject to a permitted adjustment increasing or decreasing the principal amount of bonds by up to $3,670,000 for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the outstanding City of Owensboro, Kentucky General Obligation Refunding and Improvement Bonds, Series 2012B, the proceeds of which were used to finance and refinance the cost of the acquisition, construction, installation, and equipping of an economic development project within the city, approving the form of each series of the bonds, authorizing designated officers to execute and deliver the bonds, authorizing and directing the filing of notices with the state, local debt officer for the bonds, providing for the payment and security of the bonds, establishing a bond payment fund for each series of the bonds, maintaining the heretofore established sinking fund, authorizing acceptance of the bid of the purchaser of each series of the bonds, and repealing inconsistent ordinances. Introduced and publicly read on first reading this third day of September 2019.
Okay, Steve, you want to do that again?
Sure. Take a breath.
Okay. Any comments from the Commissioner Kant?
Thank you, Mayor. That's, if I read that correctly, that's 5 refundings that are going to be done, correct? Ms. Hamrick, you may know the answer to this, I suppose, but what is the net effect of all the refunding of the bonds for the term that the city taxpayers will be saving over that term, please? Do you have an idea of what that is? There we go.
Mayor, if I could just make a few quick comments while he's on his way up. So what the city attorney read was very lengthy and somewhat technical. I think of this ordinance as having 2 broad parts. One is to refund or refinance the bond or the bond anticipation note, which is issued by the city in 2016, and to basically reissue that as a traditional bond. And then 2, to refinance or refund is the technical term, what you might think of as a refinance of 3 or possibly 4 existing bond issues that the city has issued previously. So Stan will discuss that, but I think it's important to mention now, and I'll probably mention again at the end, that all of these actions involve existing debt, so this ordinance does not authorize any new or additional debt. So with that as an intro, Stan.
Okay, I'm Stan Kramer. I'm with First Kentucky Securities Corporation in Lexington. And the short version of all that is the 2019 A bonds are to extend the debt and put a permanent debt structure on the parking garage. The B and the D bonds are both phases of the U.S. Bank building economic incentive that the city entered into. And the C and the E bonds are Smothers Park financings. Now, the Series E bonds are is the largest one, and it's right on the edge of being doable. We're currently not scheduling the sale, but in the case of enacting all these ordinances, we thought it'd be best to put it together in there because it's close. We're looking to save at least $100,000 a year on that bond issue alone. And to the question of total savings, we're looking at $5.5 million over the life of the bond issues. And of course, there's annual savings each year, and they're separated for the purposes of if the numbers were not to work, if something changed in the interest rates. But we've been presented with an opportunity here because the markets are unsettled and there's a flight to quality going on, which is driving down bond yields. And so we're actually going to a taxable structure to refund tax-exempt debt because it'll make the savings and create these kind of opportunities. It's probably a technique that you're going to see, or we will, in the bond business, see a lot of coming up in the near future. But we want to be proactive and take these opportunities. We had always planned to be here to talk about the bans and these other bond issues with the interest rates falling as they have in the last 60 days have presented an opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All this debt occurred before we got.
That's correct, Mayor. Yeah.
That debt accumulated with our savings money. All right. Next item on the agenda is the municipal order.
Yes. Municipal Order 23-2019, a municipal order declaring the .237 acres of real property located adjacent to 3310 West 2nd Street as surplus property, and further authorizing the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed transferring the property to the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Department of Highways in accordance with KRS 82083 subsection 4. Introduced and publicly read for approval this third day of September 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Just briefly, Mayor, this municipal order declares surplus and transfers back to the State Transportation Cabinet a small property at the split of West 2nd and 4th Streets that the city acquired when we took over maintenance of those streets several years ago. The owner of the business adjoining the property expressed an interest in acquiring it for his use. Because of the way the city acquired the property, we're declaring it surplus, but we cannot transfer it directly to the company. Instead, we have to transfer it back to the state, and then the state will transfer the property to the owner of the adjoining business. The business that will ultimately acquire the property and use the property is the gas station at 3310 West 2nd that was annexed earlier in this meeting.
Aye.
Yes, Mayor, if you would acknowledge Angela Hamrick to present the year-end financial report.
Yes, Mayor and Commission. The financial report for fiscal year ended June 30, 2019. Our general fund revenues through June of $57,938,857 were $2,327,253 over budget. This is primarily due to net profits and occupational license fees. Our general fund expenditures of $52,628,575 were $2,606,392 under budget, primarily due to savings in personnel services and partially due to timing and savings in maintenance, supplies, and general government. Outside of timing variances, meaning unfinished projects, the revenues and expenditures in our other funds are in line with the budget. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer.
Do we make a motion to audit first, then have discussion?
Motion?
Motion to file, what? I'm waiting for the boss to say. Motion, I will make a motion to file for an audit. Could I second, please? Could I have a second? Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Condon.
Just a comment, please, Mayor. The numbers reported by Ms. Hamrick and staff, Danae and everyone else that's downstairs they're absolutely awesome as a result of all the hard work that everybody's done within this city and that's on this commission. It is a great report that is evident, and I really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate all the work that everyone has done to make this financial report really look great. Thank you, and thank you, Mayor.
And dinner's on Larry Condor tonight.
On this one? Yeah, I'll do that one.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 9B, please consider these personnel appointments, City Manager.
Thank you. James Green, regular full-time, non-civil service appointment to laborer maintenance helper with Public Works Street Department effective September 2nd. Mallory Sims, regular full-time, non-civil service appointment to telecommunicator with the Police Department effective September 3rd. Dakota Bratcher, Bryce Garrett, Wilson Jenkins, Lucas Lashbrook, Jeremy Mahoney, and Jason Rhodes, regular full-time, non-civil service appointments to firefighter with the Fire Department effective September 5th.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
So we have to hire that many people because the chief's retiring?
Oh, my God.
Is that the deal? What about it, Josh? No? Okay, any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. City manager comments?
That's it for tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 10 is communication from elected officials. Commissioner Smith-Wright, please.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I don't know that I have anything other than that we need to pray for those people who are affected by the hurricane.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Maglinger.
Thank you, Mayor. It's really good to see Breckenridge open up 2 lanes now. That should really be beneficial to some of the local businesses in the area.
Thank you. Commissioner Condor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just one thing. On September 10th, there will be a meth seminar that will be held at St. Joe and Paul Catholic Church in their rectory is what it will be. It starts at 5:30, and really it is an event that you are bringing together both law enforcement and the Owensboro Regional Recovery, everyone else, to be able to just talk about the rise that we have seen with the meth issue, that how it's affecting families, how it's really affecting our community. So if anyone can, if they should, please mark it on your calendar to come by 5:30 on September 10th. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Commissioner Sanford?
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Item 11, open public forum. Members of the audience are invited to address the City Commission on any matter of public concern that was not on tonight's agenda. Comments are limited to issues within the scope and responsibility of this commission. Commission meetings are held to conduct city business for the benefit of Owensboro citizens and taxpayers. At this time, anyone who wishes to address the City Commission, please make their way to the podium to be recognized. Speakers must state their name and address for the clerk's record and limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Since the item on the agenda is not on the agenda, no response is required from city staff or the commission. The mayor reserves the right to extend the time of the speaker. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Clay Wilkie, and I live at 1603 College Drive. I thank you. I thank you for your time and your attention and your service to both the mayor and the members of the City Commission. I'd also like to thank Mr. Lynn and Ms. Cecil for their time over the past couple weeks. If I could approach real briefly, I've got just something I'd like to pass out to, I think, hopefully illustrate some of what I'm going to talk about for the next couple minutes. I'd also like to add, I'm an attorney. I can take my words. Sometimes I tend to go on. I'm going to do my darndest.
You got 3 minutes, baby. Talk fast.
I'm going to do my darndest. I'm going to do my darndest. Again, my name is Clay Wilkie. I'm born and raised in Owensboro, as was my father and his father before him and his father before him. I am fiercely proud of this city, of our history, and of our traditions. Frankly, I could have decided to live anywhere in the state or anywhere in the country after I finished law school. I decided to move back home because I think that highly of our city. That is to say we are not without blemishes. And I'm here this evening to talk about one of those, which is the fact that we have a gun show twice a year that is held on city property at the Owensboro Sports Center. This year, that gun show is scheduled for September 20th and 21st. We also already have another gun show scheduled for March of 2020. And because that gun show is held on city property, I believe that this is a topic of discussion that concerns the commission and the mayor and the city at large. As most of you may know, all it takes to purchase a gun at our gun show is a $6 admission ticket, cash in hand, and a state ID. There's no requirement for background checks, no checks done for past instances of domestic violence or felony commissions. As a result of these and other policies, we live in a country where nary a week goes by without some incident of gun violence. Just this past weekend, there was a shooting at a football game in Alabama. There was an incident that we were all made aware of in Texas on Sunday, followed up last night with a shooting at a state fair in Minnesota. We could go on, and I will not cite every incident. They are too numerous to cite. I am a father of a 6-year-old daughter. If it weren't for her, I may have grown numb to some of these shootings. But I haven't, because I am a father, and I'm a concerned father at that. And I think most of us in this room, if we don't have a child of our own, there's a child in the neighborhood or a grandchild that we feel concerned for. And if tragedy strikes Owensboro, and I am not so naive as to think it can't happen here, because every place says we never thought it could happen here. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror, and I want to be able to look at my daughter when she comes to me and asks questions, and I want to feel secure that I have done everything in my power to stop this senseless recurrence of tragedy. While surveys have consistently shown support for universal background checks in the high 80s to low 90%, and that's some of the literature I've passed out, citing some of my sources here, on average, it's about 90% of the population thinks we need to have universal background checks. Our national leaders have failed us on this point. Our state leaders are of little help either. KRS 65.870, which was passed in 2012, purports to limit this commission's authority or any local government's authority to pass gun control. Now, our city attorney, Mr. Lynn, again, I thank him for his time, feels that that statute ties the hands of this committee from taking any action. I'm not so sure. I seek all of your support in getting an opinion from the Attorney General to give us guidance on this point. Is that in fact what this law states? Does this law in fact state that we have to contract with certain individuals and certain corporations that want to come into our community and sell guns on city property? I don't know. I'd venture to say that none of us here know with any degree of certainty, so let's find out. In the meanwhile, let's use the laws on the books to our advantage to make this community safer. Federal statute prohibits the possession of a firearm within 1,000 feet of a school. The sports center is within 1,000 feet of Owensboro Catholic High School. Well, I don't want to see people go to jail violating this statute. I just assume our city and its leaders not be complicit in the violation of federal law. I've previously written a letter asking that this matter be put on tonight's agenda. I was denied that request. I would renew that request to have this matter placed on the agenda of the next public meeting. And until that time, I think each of you should have received a letter and a follow-up email from myself, and I would welcome any comments you might have. And I thank you again for your time and attention.
Thank you, sir. Any comments? Okay. Anyone else?
My name is Misty Head. I live at 805 East 21st Street. I'm back because of the problems I'm still having with the neighbor. I went out and put up a $3,500 privacy fence, and this is what comes over the privacy fence. I don't have a bicycle. I'm now getting trash thrown in my yard from the people next door, and it's unreal. It's nasty. I mean, it's plumb nasty next door. I've been to the doctor. I'm staying sick because of the nastiness that is going on over there. I can't afford to keep going to a doctor to tell me to keep complaining. What's going to happen to the children in the neighborhood who are exposed to health hazards? Because we have little kids in our neighborhood that don't live but 15 feet away from me, that play and walk the streets to school or ride their bicycles. What is it going to take to get our neighborhood safe again? They stole water from the city. They've stolen electricity from Linda's house. It's ridiculous. I mean, you smell urine, feces, you smell it all. I mean, I went to the extreme to make my yard safe for my animals, and they're not even safe because they're throwing crap like this over the fence for my dogs to get a hold of. It's not right. None whatsoever. It's not right. I pay taxes. That the home I'm in's been in my husband's family for over 40 years, and it's ridiculous. We had a wonderful neighborhood, and then 9 years ago when her father died, it's went downhill ever since.
Okay, thank you. Wayne, could you step forward and tell us about that piece of property for the third or fourth time? I've got to refresh my memory.
I got pictures if you need it.
No, thanks. I'm fine.
Wayne Shelton, Public Works Director. This is an ongoing issue, ma'am.
I know.
On behalf of the city, I have to apologize that sometimes our hands are tied by ordinances and by legal issues. We have referred it to our city attorney, and I believe he's been working with the county attorney on several issues. Property maintenance ordinance, as is, goes against the owner of the property. So now we have an issue where if they don't have utilities, what can we forcibly do to evict individuals that have permission to be on the property? Any fines or any citations that we issue go against the property owner. Now, continued noncompliance does, and failure to abate or correct those violations does, generate liens against the property, which over a period of time can cause some civil action on our part. We have requested and have received some assistance from the OPD, from their detective and different divisions as far as trying to assess what we can do. So, that
it's an ongoing affair, right?
It's ongoing, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now the lights and water are turned on in somebody else's name, not even hers.
All right, thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Linda Casanas, and I own the property on the other side of this property.
Try and get as close to the mic as you can.
At 811 East 21st Street.
You.
I'm supporting everything that Misty says, but what she hasn't said is there's criminal activity that goes on in this house too. Numerous people there have been arrested for drug offenses, have been in jail, and some of them have just gotten out of jail. I've been affected. I'm an attorney in Chicago, and I work for the city of Chicago on these kind of cases. And in Chicago, if this went on, they would be in court. They would get an order to clean the property up. If they didn't, there would be an injunction that would disallow anybody from being on that property. And if they didn't get it fixed, it would be a demolition order would be entered and the property would be demolished. Now, I have suffered because I'm not here all the time. This property has been in my family for 65 years. It's now my second home. My mother lived there until she died at age 88, and now I call it my second home, and I come home regularly. And this started to get very bad last fall when they started running extension cords from their house over to a receptacle in my backyard and started using my electricity. They also came over and brought a hose, used my water because they had no water or electricity. And that was all well documented. A couple of weeks ago, they broke into my house to attach electric cords to my electric outlets, burned up some of my fuses and some of the electricity to some of my rooms, and then moved it onto the kitchen where they finally got electricity. And continue to use my water. Someone was arrested for that, and thank goodness. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I can assure you if this was going on next door to any of your properties, you would have had it taken care of by now. And I know that I've looked at the city ordinances, and there is the ability for the city to do something and do it now. And I think, as she said, this property's been going downhill for 9 years. It's completely unsanitary. It's my understanding that they don't even have a working toilet in there, that they do use the bathtub as their toilet, and that's what she's talking about in the smell. And it looks like a junkyard there. There's stuff piled up in the driveway, stoves, furniture, just junk. And it's an embarrassment to the neighborhood because, as she said, it's been a wonderful neighborhood to live in, and that's why I decided to keep the house and call it my second home. And this is interfering with our enjoyment of our property. It's a nuisance that should not be tolerated.
A question, Council, can we just condemn that property?
What is the address again of the property?
807 East 21st.
7 East 21st.
Yes.
It's my understanding that the bathroom floor is completely caved into the basement, and every time it rains, there's 2 feet of water in that basement.
Okay.
And it's just...
We get the picture.
Okay.
I'm trying to find out what our...
Let me ask Wayne, is this one that Joe Sublett has issued an order and they keep violating it? Okay. What we plan to do on this and similar locations where people are prohibited to be in the property for any reason other than to be working on or rebuilding, things like that. We talked with Claude Porter last week, and we are going to start having people cited for trespass when they violate the terms of the orders. Now, this one, admittedly, I'll have to go look and see, what all we have done in the past on this. But
you know who owns the property?
Susan Mertz.
I was not talking to you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Wait your turn, please. I'm trying to keep this thing balanced.
Are you asking him?
I was asking the council.
I don't know who owns it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, yes, it is Susan Mertz. Her parents owned it, and it went to her either by will or by intestate succession. But, they've gotten numerous citations, and nothing ever happens if they don't do what the citation tells them they need to do. And that's another problem. They can't take it seriously because they know nothing's going to happen.
Well,
what we plan to do with the assistance of Claude Porter, our county attorney, these particular citations are Class A misdemeanor criminal offenses. And if a person keeps violating those, they can serve up to 12 months in jail. I'm not completely familiar with all of the aspects of this particular property, but I do.
You're going to get familiar with it,
yes.
though, aren't you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I am. But that
It's the fourth time this lady's come to talk to us about it. So let's see, either crank up that D9, or let's figure out, what our stance is. I wish that was the only case that we had like this in town, but
Well, unfortunately,
it's
I
just
do too.
part of.
Is this a home that has burned or has had a fire in the past?
No,
Okay.
but it has not been maintained for many years. The paint is peeling. It's an eyesore to our neighborhood, really.
Okay.
And it's really unsafe for anybody to be in there.
Okay.
All
I
right.
know there's black.
Wait. You need to stand up at the mic so the people on Facebook can hear you.
Whatever.
But that'll give you a couple more minutes.
My name's Misty Head. I live at 805 East 21st. I know for a fact there is no heat or air conditioning in the house.
You told us that last time.
Well, it's got black soot on the walls. There's mold in the basement because she has no set pup or no way of getting it out. She's got cats in the house.
Okay, maybe Mr. Wilkie could help you, since he's an attorney.
So,
all right, we're gonna put this on the front burner and try and find out what we can do. We appreciate you coming. I'm very sorry this is happening to you. We're gonna put it on the front burner and see what we can do. I don't know the law. Don't claim to know public safety or anything like that, but we will take a look at it. We'll get in touch with the owner of this property. That's what I'd like to see us do first and foremost. If that person, get in touch with that person, and then we can move forward. I'm not saying that's legal or anything, but I'm just saying that's what we need to do. Thank you
Thank
And I apologize again.
Okay, thank you. Hope we don't have to come back.
That makes two of us,
Okay.
or five of us, or however you look at it. Anyone else like to speak tonight? All right, another precinct I heard from.
I'm Roy Henry. I run the body shop at 1902 West 2nd, and the city had fined me for having cars on the lot to work on. And I'd like to know when that could happen, if anybody.
I don't know.
Didn't understand.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question all the way. You got fined for having cars on
That's
your
right.
own lot? 'Cause
Yeah,
they're in-
that's right.
All right.
And how did the city got the right to fine me for having stuff to work on to make my living? I've been there 57 years.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to council about that.
That's what, I'm not familiar with that.
All right.
I believe it may be the planning commission.
It's a planning and zoning
Right.
issue. It's not a city issue, but
It's my understanding. I
What do you
believe.
mean? The city owns the zoning board? What do you mean?
I don't think we own them because I can't get any work out. I can't
Well,
get my way out of
Run
them
by
either.
the city anyhow.
Well, it's not run by the city, sir. You're mistaken. It's a city-county Whitesville board, and they make the rules according, or they follow the rules according to Frankfurt and then Owensboro and Davis County. We don't make the rules. Every 5 years, there's a comprehensive plan review, and there's some adjustments that can be made. We have no power over them other than to fuss at them. So we'll take a look. I've heard of your case. Aren't
Yeah.
you- Are you Roy's dad?
Huh?
Are you Boogaloo Barbecue's dad? Roy?
What?
Different Roy Henry?
Yes.
Okay. Your son, not the barbecue sauce guy?
No.
Okay, I was going to say.
Maybe a
we could
cousin.
Work some trade out here.
Yeah.
But we'll take a look at it, but that's a planning and zoning issue.
Well,
When do they
now-
meet here?
Well, now let me tell you. Right now, tomorrow they put a fine on me to pay. I ain't gonna be paying no fine over something I own and something I paid for.
Okay, well, that's between you and planning and zoning. That's that simple to me. And when do they meet here?
Second and fourth.
Come on.
What's going to happen? I'm
No,
going to end up suing the city over it because
Okay.
that's my right to make a living.
Help yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, help
Yeah,
yourself.
that's what I've
but
got
it's-
from you before.
Pardon me?
I've been to City Hall over 25 times to see you on that matter, and yet you ain't never been there to talk to me on that
It's
matter.
a part-time job, sir. I have a real job as well.
Well, I don't care
work-
how many jobs you got. You're the mayor. Anything
Nice
happens in the
talking to
city,
you.
you're supposed to be there to
Thank
take
you for
care
your
of it.
time tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah.
All right, anything else to come before the commission tonight? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.